Hello and welcome to Pagecast. My name is Selokela Molamodi and I have the honor of being your host. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, a man who has started an important conversation. It is Dr. Mzamo Masito, the author of The Country Hates Our Men/Boys. Dr. Mzamo, thank you so much for making the time to speak to us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A very provocative title, I must say. Talk to us about how you got to that.
How I got to the title really is that the first theme is that I have two older brothers who both passed away. The first one was a really good man. And the idea that toxic masculinity existed in him, I didn't see. He was a very present father, present husband, really responsible citizen and pro-social and a paramedic. So everything about him was just save lives and help people.
Yeah.
And he died from kidney failure, and I wanted to highlight that. The second one was my older brother who committed suicide, and he hanged himself. He hanged himself, but he not only hung himself, but he hanged his son, which is 9-10 years old, my nephew. And then he hanged himself. And I wanted to reflect on suicide and why men die from suicide and the feelings of worthlessness and uselessness which they feel, and what society tells them when men can't provide or men can't do provision, therefore can't have money, or unemployed men are more twice or three times likely to commit suicide because they can't provide. So then the second piece is that I run an NGO for 21 years now, which is still going, called African Men Care. And in it, I have witnessed for 21 years boys and men. And a lot of it is, for boys, it will be, they will say, "Uncle, I sometimes feel like they don't like us or love us. I feel like men are a pebble or a thorn in society's shoes. And all we hear is, what's wrong with men? What's wrong with boys? I think they hate us." And then the boys will say, like, for example, the things they said about my absent father were very painful. Like, my father is useless. My father is a dog. And it's said by everyone at home, from grandmother, grandfather, mother, uncles, aunt. So it's not just the mother only says these things, but everyone in the street or community will say these things as well. And also for men, they will say to me in safe spaces, we feel there is a hostile venting and highly negative expressed emotions towards men. And there's a righteous normative hate towards men, and the words like #men must die, #men are trash are socially acceptable, and which are wounding actually to men, because yes, the majority of crimes, of violent crimes, are committed by men, yet the majority of men are not violent. So you can't use the 5% or 10% that is violent and project it to all men. And you can't problematize all men. So men struggle with that because their argument becomes, when Dr. Nandipa commits her act, we attribute it to Dr. Nandipa. We don't say all women are Dr. Nandipa. When a woman kills 8 family members for policy or insurance, we don't attribute her evil act to all women.
Right.
But for some reason, society has a bad habit of saying amadoda zizinja, or amadoda are this. So men are pluralized, whereas a woman is a singular. A man is a plural. And whatever negative committed by a man, it's all men. And that's the part that really led to me thinking, okay, I'm going to take all these things that are under the table that men are scared to say in public. I'm just going to say it in public so that we can start a positive dialogue around it.
I'm really sorry to hear about the passing of your brothers. And, you know, it's very interesting, the conversation you've started with this book, because one of the things that you touch on, in fact, you start the book by repeating those phrases that you were alluding to just now. And I just want to find out from you, in a country like South Africa, where you look at the gender-based violence statistics and they tell you what they tell you as far as men are concerned in being perpetrators, were you not scared of, no, but the focus is on women, and here you are bringing this conversation around men and how boys have been left behind?
I was not scared because I did look at the data.
Right.
And the data tells me that the country's problem is violence towards men, boys, women, girls, children, plants, or ecocide and animals if you go to SPCA. That's the country's problem. The national crisis is violence. Now, where we make a mistake as a society is the data shows me that if you have 100 violent deaths in this country, which we call homicide, they are made up of androcide or masculicide, which is men, plus femicide, which is women, plus felicide, which is children, adults killing children. We forgot plants and eco, and we forgot animals. But still, there's 3. Then the 3, when I looked at the data, if there's 100, out of that 100, 88 to 90 are men and boys who die from violent deaths. So the idea that the country's national crisis is only femicide is unfair on its own, because it creates disunity, because men also experience violence. Men are also scared of violent men, and men are also killed by men. And if you say 100 people die from violent deaths in this country and 90 are men, and then we go on a march and we exclude the 90 and we only focus on the 10, something's not right with me with that. I don't agree with that. Do I agree that there's femicide? Yes. But it's an incomplete story to say that the national crisis in this country of violence is only femicide.
Right.
And the national crisis in this country is violence. Violence perpetrated by men against men, women, and children. And you can even add the ecology, and you can even add animals in that picture. So what I wanted to address to society was, we should be very careful to make gender equality a zero-sum game. We should be very careful to make gender empathy a zero-sum game.
Okay.
And in the process of doing that, we divide each other and we create an us and them, whereas this thing is supposed to be and, not either or. And I don't see anything wrong in going to a march where we are all protesting that this country's national crisis, which Cyril Ramaphosa needs to acknowledge, is that the country is violent.
Right.
And we need to work on that. But I can't accept and agree that when a few of my colleagues go to a march to support femicide, and there's a placard that said, #men must die, #men are trash. I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep quiet and not say something that there's an imbalance in the story. And I want to tell whole stories so that we can create whole boys, whole girls, and then a whole future. So I feel like this narrative where gender-based violence has been made female-based violence is blindsided in a sense that, or is short-term sighted or short-sighted, because what it then does is the men who are experiencing pain feel they are left behind, and then it produces resentment and anger, and it produces us and them. And now we are not united, and now it's us and them.
Yeah. You know, I can't help but open the book because there's a particular chapter I just want you to unpack for us a bit. And there's a lot of crises that have been identified in the book. It's the me and two, which one could easily read as men, right? Men kill and rape women too. And you in there, you unpack statistics and how men are, homicide victims. 88% of men are homicide victims. How far behind have we left, have we as a society left the boy child?
Way behind. I mean, it starts at home. The fact that 7 out of 10 boys are raised by single mothers. There are over 50, globally there's actually sufficient research to prove that there are over 50 negative outcomes for boys who are raised by absent fathers, in a home with absent fathers. Then you go to the education system. Boys are doing the worst in an education system on numeracy, literacy, science. The highest dropout rate is boys. Grade 12, last year alone, 44% of boys wrote matric or grade 12. I don't know why the country doesn't see that as a crisis. If you go to graduations at varsity, over 60% of the graduates are now female. We are having an imbalance. What we were hoping we were going to create gender equality, we have now creating another gender inequality. So in our process of empowering, rightly so, women and girls, we somehow made it a zero-sum game. And we forgot that we should actually make sure no one is left behind and no child is left behind. And we did exactly the opposite. We empowered one segment and we took a girl child to work. We did everything that we could, which was right. But unfortunately, it created an unintended negative consequence. We forgot the boy. And now the boy is lagging way behind it. He is not in education, he's not in employment, and he's not in training.
What do you say to people who say, yeah, but the boy must catch up? Patriarchy favored men for far too long, so he must figure it out and just catch up with the girls.
I find like these words like patriarchy, misogyny, toxic masculinity are very highly reductionist in nature. They're very, for me, that's just lazy thinking, because you can't attribute a complexity such as colonialism, apartheid, emasculation, or what masculinity norms, which a boy who grows up in Alex without power, he didn't create, and now you tell him that he's a beneficiary of patriarchy. A boy who grows up in Soweto, Kaili, Chakuguletu, a boy like me who grows up without an absent father, the system has set it up in such a way that I fail. I grew up in a Bantu education system in poverty, absent father. I grew up with a present father who is violent. I get molested or sexually abused young. So how am I a beneficiary of something that is also toxic to me? The things that kill women in the elements that are toxic in masculinity are also killing boys and men. So to then immediately throw that word patriarchy at men, that, oh, you're a beneficiary of patriarchy, I feel like it lacks empathy.
How do we create these safe spaces? Because you wrote this book to not only start the conversation, but get some kind of action out of this. How do we create the safe spaces for boys and for men? And I ask this, Dr. Mzamo, because if you think about it, over the years, society has become quite intentional. We might not be there yet, but has been intentional in creating safe spaces for women and girls. If you think about things like period positivity, removing that stigma from periods, encouraging girls to take up space, take up opportunities. How do we do that with young men, especially with the kind of social fabric we have in South Africa?
Some of the things we need to be able to do at home, for example, it's simple things as a man must be given access even if he doesn't pay maintenance.
Unpack that.
Because time and dime are not the same. Even if you go to court, the access court and the maintenance court are not the same. When you want maintenance, you go to a maintenance court. When you want access to a child, you go to a different court, which even the court in itself acknowledges that money doesn't equal presence. Because I could pay maintenance and not be present. But if you're going to not give men access to their child because they are useless or they don't pay, they don't have money, they're unemployed, that is also wrong. Because early childhood development is presence, quality presence and time. It's not money. Kids don't remember what gifts we bought them. They remember the experiences we had with them. And some of them is just playing ball, cheap, free play ball at a park with my father. And that heals a boy. The other part for me is we need to figure out a way to get more male teachers, male psychologists, male nurses, the care industry doesn't have males. So in my time when I was at school, if I had an absent father at home, 50% of the primary school teachers were male. So I had a male figure. Now 9 out of 10 teachers are female. Psychologists, only 30% of psychologists in this country are black. And in that, 9 out of 10 are female. So where does then a boy find a safe space? And then the last piece for me, there are organizations like What About the Boys from Prime Stars, or Fathers Matter from Headlines, or even Sonke Gender Justice will do programs. So they are starting to have programs where, like, now there's a project I'm going to go to next week, which is Mankind Project, where men can go and learn to be men and in a safe space and talk about the issues that affect them.
In the book, you also zone in on the need for positive role models or male figures for boys in townships. Just take us into your confidence as to that focus of townships and that space.
Because a majority of absent fatherhood is in township and in rural areas, and also because in this country you can't separate race and gender and social class.
Unfortunately.
The three walk hand in hand, same
Right.
WhatsApp group. You can't separate them.
Yeah.
And the dominant issues on absent fatherhood are black and colored, if I cut it by race in this country. And then low income still, a middle income, low to middle income. And then, so those just show up in the data. So I am a product of social fathers. So I was raised by social fathers. When I started selling drugs at age 9, my stepdad stepped in, which is the word step in. I like as a stepfather, you step in, and he took me to Scouts. I became a Boy Scout. And there I found another social father. Then he took me to become an altar boy. Then I became an altar boy. The priest became a social father. And the deacons became social fathers. Then he took me to a sport and to boxing or football. The coach became a social father. So I know that it takes a village to raise a boy. And you on a single parent on their own, it's going to be a tough job. So what I'm advocating for is we democratize social fathers. And then we make social fathers also raise this boy. And because it's better than not having a father at all. And in my case, many wrong things I did growing up, but these social fathers caught me and guided me. And if they didn't exist, all four of them, including my primary school teacher and high school male teacher. So I have 6 people who were all making sure that whenever I go short left, they make me short right. Whenever I was doing wrong, they correct. And that's what I'm advocating for, really, is that we need more social fathers.
Another dominant theme in the book is the theme of accountability. You also encourage boys and men to take some kind of accountability. And to add to that point, I've heard people say, yeah, but if we create safe spaces for men, we are then saying they shouldn't be protectors and providers. Now we are watering them down. We are denying them their natural instinct. What do you say to that?
Mine is that we should accept that when we talk about men, we should not say what's wrong with men. We should say what happened to boys and men. Because when you say what's wrong with men, you problematize us. You make us a problem immediately. So we might as well not start talking, because you've already concluded that there is something wrong. And you radically pathologize us. We become a pathology, a virus, a COVID-19, and we are not human anymore. As soon as you say what's wrong with a person, even when men speak about women, they shouldn't say what's wrong with women, because then you've radically pathologized women. So when you say what happened to men, you can immediately say that, oh, I can't take away apartheid colonization because it broke families. So you can't deny that fact. Poverty and inequality breaks men. You can't deny that fact. However, men cannot use these 3 things as an excuse, because they also have an agency. They also have individual responsibility that they must also step up. They must also do the right thing. They must also break the cycles. My father didn't raise me. His father didn't raise him, my grandfather. I have a responsibility to break that cycle.
Right.
That's my responsibility, and that's how I should be held accountable. What did you do to not continue the cycle? And that's where I start saying men and boys should also be taught not only about rights, they should also be taught individual responsibility and be held accountable. It's the same for me when men say, this child is not mine, when they don't want to pay maintenance. Then I'm proposing that, why don't we just make paternity tests compulsory then in this country? And so that when the name you put on that birth certificate, the male name that you put on that birth certificate, we know 99.9% that he is the father. And when he doesn't pay maintenance, we up the penalties.
Right.
Because now we can hold you accountable. We're not going to waste the court's time where we now have to wait another 2 months doing paternity test, and the child is suffering in the process. So I just want us to figure out more ways to also tell men, yes, there's a lot going on. There are a lot of variables that are not in your control that have led you to be in the space that you are in, but you also have agency and you also have freedom, and you must also exercise it.
Dr. Mzamo, our time is almost up, but I cannot let you go without asking, how do we, as the rest of society, and I'm now talking women, girls, and everyone else, how do we feature into this conversation? How do we show men and boys that we don't hate them?
I think what we need to establish first is that gender equality is not a zero-sum game. Mm-hmm. We need to stop the either or. We need to stop the dialectical immaturity that when I say to you that the boy needs to be empowered, the immediate thing that a person does is, oh, you want to not empower girls. Mm-hmm. No one is saying that. It's actually both. I'm saying let's do both. And if we can be a society that is able to juggle multiple truths comfortably, which we don't, I think partly social media has destroyed us' ability to have nuance in our debates and arguments. Can we start healing that way? And then the second one, if you have nothing good to say about the absent person, say nothing. And don't say it in the presence of the child too. And this goes to everyone in society.
Yeah.
Just say nothing. Yeah. Just smile and say nothing. And then the third piece is that we need each other. So we need a new social contract and social love, especially amongst black people and colored people. We need to love each other differently. Apartheid ended, and now we are each other's enemy, which means apartheid worked. The thing that apartheid wanted to do, which was to divide and conquer us, it has done it by tribe, and now it's doing it by gender. And now we are each other's enemies, and we are not united. And two elephants fight, the grass suffers. And this grass is the child.
Final question. What do you have to say to the boys watching or listening, as well as the men?
What I wanted to say to men and boys is that they are no longer, their pain is not invisible. Their pain matters too. And they should be also able to say, me too. And it shouldn't be looked upon and frowned upon. When a man says, me too, I was raped. Me too, I was molested. Me too, I'm wounded. Me too, I have a broken interiority. And I want us to get to that point where men know and boys know that they are not invisible. They also matter. And then the second part is that they must also then take responsibility as well, and not just use these as excuses to then not take individual responsibility and become pro-social and use masculinity to build the world.
Dr. Mzamo Masito, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the work that you do. Hopefully we'll be back here again with a second book, a third or fourth. Am I pushing it? No? And thank you for watching. Do make sure that you grab yourself a copy of this book. It is called This Country Hates Our Men/Boys. Let's get the conversation going. Let's get it flowing. Make sure that you share, like, and subscribe. For now, it's goodbye.